health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health TV and radio show. I'm your host, Sara Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of three. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you're notified every week with my new podcasts on Mondays and Tuesdays. And if you haven't already, join my free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. There is no downside. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to enhance your health. And you will be a part of an awesome, like-minded group to support you on your journey, in addition to truly taking control of your health. And my goal, as I've mentioned, is to reach everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So please help me with that goal. Share this podcast with a few of your friends who may need my help, especially today. We're talking about big food, and maybe that is the culprit making you sick. In our fast-paced modern world, convenience has taken over. I have a daughter that just went off to college. She's out of my house, out of my food. I prep this nice organic wild animal protein, organic vegetables, and it's available for her when she comes home for practice. She eats, she goes and does her homework, and she can get on with life. Now she's in college on her own. And she is trying to figure out the food thing, because obviously the cafeterias don't have the quality of food that I gave her. But what is she able to get away with? And it's kind of shocking. She's at a prestigious university. She's an athlete, and the school is providing for amazing Pac-10, awesome athletes. You would think they would be getting the best quality nutrients, the best quality water, the best quality energy drinks, and it's crap. I saw it. I mean, the protein little snack bites are the peanut butter protein and crackers in the refrigerator. I was shocked. And it just brought up this reality that even at the top level, we have succumbed to the belief in trusting these big companies in what they're feeding us. And that's the power of big food. Big food corporations have immense influence over what we eat. Through the extensive marketing campaigns, they shape our perceptions and preferences, promote these highly processed foods laden with unhealthy ingredients, and we take it as it's natural, it's normal, it's healthy because it's out there. Raising kids. I mean, my kids are all 16 and older, thank goodness. I can't imagine having a young child. Even 10 years ago, when you would send your kid to school with healthier food, they would get teased because their friends had their juice boxes, the peanut butter and jellies, and the goldfish, right? And that was normal. So what is normal is not even real food. And it's hard to overcome this. 67% of the food consumed by our children consists of processed foods. 67%. That's almost 70%. That means they are eating about 30% real food. And that's, what real food are they even eating? Maybe it's just apples and sugar and fruits, which are fine, but where is the quality of the nutrients? So why is this so bad? The ultra processed foods. The big food specializes in manufacturing ultra processed foods that are high in these added sugars, the unhealthy fats and seed oils, the artificial additives and sweeteners. They have no nutrition. They lack essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber. But on top of that, the little nutrients that they have, it causes malabsorption of those nutrients, causes leaky gut, inflammation, and addiction to these foods. So you want to eat more, causing more disease and causing more malnutrition. And the cascade continues. So what's more is that these big food companies strategically include ingredients to make these foods addictive, leading to the overeating of the processed foods. And then regular consumption of these foods have been linked to a range of chronic diseases, including obesity, insulin resistance, diabetes, heart disease, and even the C word, right? So I just mentioned my daughter. My son is 2 years ahead of her, and he's really in tune with his body. He also doesn't care what other people think. So it was really interesting to see how he took on the college atmosphere and the cafeteria food. Day 2, he called me and he said, Mom, we got to do something. I can't eat this food. Number one, it doesn't taste good. So he didn't even have the taste buds for it. But he says, I feel like crap within 2 days because he was not eating food that was feeding his muscles and his nutrients and his demand. And he demands a lot out of his body. He works out a lot. He, studies a lot. He does a lot. So he couldn't function at that level just within 2 days on that food. He felt a difference. And he doesn't have a weight issue. He doesn't have a thyroid issue. His gut is fine. He doesn't get bloated, nothing like most of us. It was just more of energy and his ability to function. So it starts with the children. These big food companies heavily target our children with advertising using that persuasive techniques. They promote the sugary cereals, the snacks, beverages, and then you go into the market and all those foods are at the eye level of a 5-year-old, right? So they're pulling on mom. I want this. I want this. And believe me, I've been there. You're exhausted. You have so many things on your plate as a mom. And you're just like, okay, fine. Just throw that in the basket and that's it. Right. And then you use the food as a treat or as a bonus or, to get them motivated to do something, whether they do their homework or go out and play or just be quiet for a minute and I'll give you a bowl of cereal or some Skittles, whatever it is. That creates this psychology and addiction. You as a parent are addicted to getting your child to be quiet. And these big companies know it. They know what's going on. They know that these foods are filled with things that are addictive, and it shapes long-term eating habits, increases the risk of developing chronic diseases later in life. 25% of children and 45% of adults, that's almost half of you listening, suffer from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm not talking about the alcoholics out there. I'm talking about a disease that before 1980 was only for alcoholics, and 25% of our children have that disease. You've got to stop and listen and think about this. This is not okay. This is not real food. And then you want to get into the environment. Okay. So for all the vegans and vegetarians out there that think they're eating that way because of environmental issues and climate change and, all the things that are in the political realm, right? Okay. The practices of big food not only affect our health, but they're having devastating consequences on the environment. And these are the big foods that are telling you about climate change. So I rarely get into politics, but this is an area where you need to deep dive. And I'm not going to get into this too much right now, but the industrialized food system relies on intensive farming practices, which contribute to deforestation, greenhouse gas emissions, water pollution. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, dioxins. That is coming from the industrial practices and in our conventionally raised meats. Those dioxin chemicals are hazardous to our health, slowing down our thyroid, causing that Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism that everyone's suffering from. So these are the things that are going on, you guys. Moreover, the excessive use of pesticides and fertilizers are harming us and the ecosystems and the biodiversity. So it's not just our health, but it's the environment's health. So, processed foods, 2 diseases did not exist in children before the introduction of processed foods. I mentioned the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The other is insulin resistance. I remember going to a diabetes fundraiser and it was called adult diabetes. Now it's called type 2 diabetes because adult diabetes is happening in children. So they had to change the name. So many of the modern health conditions link back to these 2 diseases, insulin resistance and fatty liver. When you reverse insulin resistance and fatty liver, you can reverse or alleviate many health conditions. I cannot say the word reverse, so I have to be careful with what I'm saying here. So when you eliminate the processed foods, you help with the other diseases. Insulin resistance at the level of the liver becomes diabetes. That's why you gotta love your liver and do your liver flushes. I am getting ready for my September group to start the Ascent Diet Cleanse September 4th. And this is the cleanse that helps alleviate insulin resistance and fatty liver. So insulin resistance at the level of the liver becomes diabetes. Insulin resistance at the ovaries becomes PCOS. I had PCOS. I was eating a ton of sugar in the 80s and 90s, frozen yogurt. Well, it was fine because there was 0 sugar in it, right? Or there was 0 fat in it. Bagels, fruits, all the packaged snack wells, right? They're packaged processed foods, but we're told that it's okay because there was no fat in it, but there was tons of added sugar. No wonder I came out with PCOS. I had a hard time with fertility. When I corrected my insulin resistance, my PCOS went away. Insulin resistance at the heart becomes heart disease. Insulin resistance at the brain becomes Alzheimer's and dementia. Processed foods wreak havoc through multiple pathways. They back up the liver with fructose and toxins. They inflame the body with seed oils. They increase the appetite with the hidden sugars and sweeteners. They starve the gut by taking out all that fiber. That fiber feeds your gut. I believe it was less than 10 years ago that we really understood the microbiome. And now you're hearing a ton of information about the microbiome. Well, that microbiome needs fiber to feed itself. Because of the excessive fructose, the inflammatory oils, the GMO toxins, the liver is overwhelmed by the processed foods and gets metabolized immediately into liver fat. The liver is like stacking up all of these things against it, right? And then finally it says, I give up. I give up. I can't do what I'm meant to do. Fiber plays an important role in food. It slows the rise of glucose and insulin in the blood, and it feeds the gut bacteria. Without fiber, processed food not only starves the good bacteria, but it creates holes in the intestinal lining, leading to inflammation and leaky gut. And I had Karan Krishnan on a few weeks ago talking about leaky gut. He's going to be on again next week. Super excited. Don't miss that. But we talk about what happens with leaky gut and those holes in the intestinal lining. That inflammation and leaky gut lead to the nutrient malabsorption, depression, anxiety, autoimmune disease, addiction, chronic pain, brain fog, fatigue, anemia, and so much more. Like every single disease stems from this insulin resistance, fatty liver, inflammation, leaky gut, combination. And it's like a firestorm in the body. So in the big food, we've got fructose. Fructose in processed foods is concentrated. It's not like the fruit fructose, right? You eat an apple, it's got, 20 grams of sugar, fructose in it. It's got a ton of fiber and other nutrients as well. This fructose in the processed foods is concentrated without the fiber. And then you add in more fructose, like the high fructose corn syrup. And it's literally like putting cocaine in your veins. It is worse than cocaine and heroin. Well, maybe not worse, but it is up there. And we're going to talk about the addictive part of it because that is worse than some of the other drugs. It's been linked to the development of insulin resistance and all metabolic diseases. It not only is not being utilized by the muscles or the body for energy. Okay, so here you are eating this food and you think you're getting energy. This is where I'm thinking when I'm touring the athletic facility at USC, right? All of these athletes that are amazing physiques and bodies that need to perform in their sport, and they're being fed these foods with high fructose corn syrup. This is actually stealing energy from the cells by lowering ATP. ATP is your cell's mitochondria. As a result, the blood sugar and the insulin rise exponentially. Fatty liver increases, uric acid increases, triglycerides increase, and metabolic disease manifests. Triglycerides are increasing on blood tests out of nowhere. And this is even in people that are not eating fructose. And this spike protein, which I've talked about over the last couple of weeks, has been increasing triglycerides and levels of cholesterol in blood tests, even in someone who hasn't changed their diet, that's staying away from these big foods and processed foods and sugar. So that means that these processed foods are making an even bigger impact and putting more pressure on the liver to process these triglycerides and that cholesterol. So it's making things so much worse. Fructose depletes the body of copper, and copper is needed to decrease uric acid. Without copper, uric acid leads to insulin resistance and obesity. It's been interesting in animal studies, according to Dr. Richard Johnson, when uric acid is controlled, insulin resistance doesn't occur. So if you don't have the copper to control uric acid, that uric acid is going to then have a bigger propensity to increase and lead to insulin resistance. That's why copper is so important. And then over the last 3 years, copper's been depleted by our immune system being loaded with zinc, which we need zinc, but we were overloading on zinc to boost the immune system, right? Well, that competes with copper and depletes copper, but the spike protein also on its own depletes copper out of the body. As I mentioned before, lack of fiber. Not only does the fiber slow the rise of the blood sugar, but it also feeds the good bacteria, which is an integral part in the immune system. And that fiber, if without it, the cells become resistant and stop listening to the messages of insulin. It's like the mom screaming at their kids saying, don't do that. Don't run in the house. Don't run in the house. Don't run in the house. And they just get, they don't listen. They become resistant to mom's voice. And then dad comes in and whispers, hey, don't run in the house. And the kid listens, right? So you have to get another messaging system to make the body start listening. And you can do that by flipping the fuel system. We'll get into that in a minute. But that is what's going on when you take the fiber out of these foods, and this leads to the state of insulin resistance, where more insulin is needed to move the sugar into the cells, and this will cause the body to crave more sugar to fulfill the increased insulin levels, and it becomes this vicious cycle of quickly escalating blood sugar and insulin, and it will trigger a massive inflammation in the gut, wipe out that gut bacteria responsible for nutrient absorption and strengthening the immune system. We're going into fall, you guys. I don't care what they're talking about as far as what the fear-based is going on. It is normal flu season coming up, right? We just have to be aware, boost our immune system, and go in without fear, but ready with a strong immune system. So this is the time to really think about this. Then you have the inflammatory seed oils. Fats are the primary building blocks of your cells, yes. However, linoleic acid, which makes up 60 to 80% of omega-6 fatty acids or fats in processed foods, is the main contributor to chronic disease. I pulled out some hot dogs that were beef hot dogs. Okay, we're talking about meat. That meat had high fructose corn syrup in it and canola oil. There is no need for either one of those ingredients, but they inject it even in foods like that into our dairy and our low sugar ketogenic snacks that are natural. And these words are used to make you think that these are healthy foods. I would rather you eat a sweet potato than a low carb ketogenic bar, because processed foods have these hidden ingredients in them, even if you're getting them at Whole Foods or the natural market around the corner. The seed oils to look for are canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, rice bran oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, and peanut oil. Then you've got the artificial sweeteners. I used to eat Splenda like it was nothing, like it was water. I would put it in my drinks, put it on my food. It didn't matter because it was natural and it was a non-calorie sweetener. That non-calorie sweetener was actually ripping up my gut and turning into formaldehyde. Little did I know. Now, that one was actually one of the better ones. Many of the artificial sweeteners, people think they're better than sugar because they have no caloric value, but they can actually do more harm than sugar itself. I'd rather you have pure cane sugar. Not only do they increase the cravings for actual sugar, leading to overeating, but they cause leaky gut, disrupt the signaling pathway from the gut to the brain that controls appetite. They cause leaky gut. They inhibit the absorption of the little nutrition that you may actually get from processed and non-processed foods. And even though they don't have calories, they trigger an insulin response, causing insulin resistance, fatty liver, and weight gain. Even Splenda and stevia. So after the Splenda kick, I switched to stevia. Well, stevia is natural. So is monk fruit. So it's fine to eat as much as you want. I was retaining a ton of water. I cut it out, and within 12 hours, my body just let go like of 5 pounds of water. And I'm like, okay, there we go. That stevia was backing up my liver. Now, if I was living 20 years ago and the only thing that I was, bombarding my liver with was the stevia, would it have that reaction? Maybe not. But it's this layer of toxins, processed food, radiation, spike protein, and stevia. The liver's weighed down and it's having a difficult time. You have these emulsifiers in these foods. Big food uses them to bring fat and water together to extend their shelf life, and that's why they last forever. These emulsifiers destroy the mucosal lining that Karan mentioned, and that mega mucosa, we can talk about in a minute, helps heal, but that mucosal lining is that barrier in your gut, and it causes the sensory neurons responsible for telling the brain what nutrients you've consumed to be wiped out. So the brain never receives the proper signals to shut off the appetite for eating, even when you're eating your healthy wild animal protein and your vegetables. So say you have the processed food in the morning and for dinner you do what I'm telling you to do, your brain's not going to get the signal because those neurons have been killed by the processed foods from the meal before. And that can last for days. As a result, cravings increase while the nutrient absorption diminishes, leading to malnourishment, inflammation, overeating, and a compromised immune system. Gluten. Everyone knows if they've got some autoimmune issue, let's get rid of gluten. Well, there's multiple reasons, because you can actually probably get away with eating some gluten in Europe because they process their foods differently. But gluten and other grains not only are covered in glyphosate and GMOs, which cause inflammation and leaky gut, but they're also referred to as anti-nutrients, meaning they're stealing nutrients from the body. They're actually taking vitamin D and some of the B vitamins out of the body. They too destroy the gut microbiome, lowering the immune system, disrupt hormonal balance, and contribute to that insulin resistance. GMOs and glyphosate in general not only lead to that inflammation, malabsorption, and leaky gut, but they also inhibit phase 2 estrogen detoxification, leading to estrogen dominance. What's estrogen dominance? Well, if you're a man and you've got man boobs, or your testosterone's low and it's not working for you like it used to, or you can't maintain that muscle mass, that's estrogen dominance. And in women too, it's weight gain, it's lethargy, it's brain fog, all of those symptoms as well. And I go into estrogen dominance on SaraBantaHealth.com if you want to dive into it any deeper. Acidity. So these processed foods are extremely acidic for the body and cause the body to overcompensate to balance out the pH by stealing calcium, magnesium, and other minerals from the bones. I love it. I've got family members who eat tons of sugar because they don't have weight issues. So why do you have to eat healthy if you don't have a weight issue, right? They eat tons of sugar and they have acid reflux, and then they take their bone up or their calcium supplement. I'm like, do you understand that you're getting nowhere because the calcium that you're taking in can't compensate for the amount of acidity that's in your processed food diet? And it's not just about weight gain and weight loss, guys. It's about what's going on inside the body. So how does big food relate to addiction? I mentioned that sugar is more addictive than the hard drugs, the cocaine, the alcohol, the heroin. And big foods, no, they're not dumb. They know how to play on your addictive levels. And so they are utilizing multiple strategies to ensure not just cravings for processed foods, but that actually you are addicted to these processed foods. Number one, destroys that hormone called CCK. It's a hormone in the gut triggered by amino acids and omega-3 fatty acids to tell the brain it's received sufficient nutrients during a meal and to stop eating. The processed foods destroy that signal, perpetuating that insatiable appetite for more processed foods. That's why when you eat these processed foods, you just want more. Your appetite for them increase as you're eating them. And that doesn't make sense. You should be less hungry than before you ate after you've started eating. But that's not the case with big food and processed foods. Leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone produced by the fat cells that play a key role in regulating appetite and energy balance, signals to the brain that there's enough stored energy as fat, and helps regulate food intake. When leptin levels are high, it signals to the brain that the body's satisfied, reduces hunger, and increases metabolism. That's the way it's supposed to work. But with processed food, that overrides this response. The body experiences leptin resistance. The mom's screaming at the kids again, and the kid's not listening, where the cells become less responsive to the leptin signal. And this is going to lead to overeating, which will worsen insulin and leptin resistance. And this becomes a vicious cycle. The big food also uses salt. And you know I love my accelerated ancient salt that's full of 62 minerals, super hydrating. That's not the salt we're talking about. Food addiction is centered around salt and sugar, not fat and protein. If you're depleted in salt and minerals, you are going to have, this is going to evoke a process in the central nervous system that induces you to satisfy that sodium appetite. And most processed foods are highly palatable with salt and sugar. When you eat the sugar, the brain gets the signals mixed up and thinks that the salt cravings are satisfied by the sugar. By repeating this behavior just a few times, the brain has created a habit loop of satisfying sodium needs with sugar cravings. That's where sometimes like you'll switch from wanting the chips to then the Ben & Jerry's, but then you might want to go back to the chips, right? So you've got that salt and sugar. And look at the sodium content on some of your desserts. Some of the ice creams, there's tons of sodium. And how much sugar is actually in some of your chips and your crackers that don't even taste sweet. They know what they're doing. Then they're playing with the dopamine response. It dysregulates your dopamine. Your dopamine is the hormone that motivates you for an action. It's what makes you get out of bed, makes you want to go work out, makes you want to go to school and get good grades, go for a run. That is an awesome hormone. But what happens is it gets dysregulated with any type of addiction. If you are listening and you're like, yeah, I know, I've got an addiction, a food addiction, a gambling addiction, a porn addiction, a social media addiction, check out my website, sarabantahealth.com, and look up addiction. You will see my articles on addiction. But it plays with food just like it does with any other drug. Addiction occurs when you're no longer able to function without pleasurable results coming from an activity or a substance. In other words, you need that substance to just feel normal and not even experience pleasure. So processed foods cause food addictions in many people, where they create this unhealthy relationship with food. And that's why so many people have a disorder with food or a bad relationship with food. It's not their fault. They've been taught then these big food companies are giving them real food, and it's not real food, and it's tripping up this dopamine regulation. So the hormones leptin and insulin are completely screwed, and those are responsible for appetite control. And as a result, you feel out of control over your food consumption, and you don't see food as a necessary daily nutrient need, much like an animal would. You see it as like my drug, right? Most addictions, whether behavioral, like social media or gambling, or substances such as cocaine, alcohol, they work through one pathway of the brain. Sugar impacts 3 separate dopamine pathways. 3. And that is why it's the most addictive substance that you can be addicted to. We've gone over this before. I want to touch on it again. The 3 pathways are that taste of sweet. So the pure taste of sweet releases dopamine, which causes you to crave more sweet containing foods to achieve that level of dopamine again. So here's your normal level of dopamine. Sweet takes you up, right? And what you need to do, dopamine wants to be even. So then it's going to have a pain or a pleasure pain response. So for the pleasure that you get after you eating the sweet, you are going to drop lower below base level. And now you have this pain. You have this pain unless you eat more. Okay, so then you're going to eat a little more and you're going to even it out. Now you need to eat more just to even it out. But then eventually you lower that dopamine response. So you need to eat that sweet just to get to the level that it was at baseline the first time. I hope this makes sense. So it's just like with coffee. You need to, that first cup of coffee when you've never had coffee before, it's awesome. But then after months of drinking coffee, you just need that coffee to feel like you used to feel without any coffee. So that's just the way that addiction and the body's tolerance works with dopamine. So then you have these sweet containing foods, not just with real sugar, but artificial sweeteners, and then injected with that high fructose corn syrup. So your dopamine level is lower and your appetite has increased compared to before taking your first bite. Then you have the post-ingestive dopamine. This is the second pathway. This mechanism is triggered in the gut, where the body's registering food that increases glucose in the blood. And this occurs about 15 minutes after consumption. The body's wired to encourage anything that will raise glucose for survival purposes. Think about animals, right? This will activate dopamine to tell your brain to eat more. This includes the hidden sweeteners that don't even taste sweet in the mouth, like maltitol. So in the chips, in the crackers, they're putting maltitol or other sweeteners that you can't even taste, but your gut tastes them, says, okay, I want more processed foods to raise my blood sugar, and I want more sugar, right? So this is in crackers, chips, meats, and dairy. Then the third pathway is a rise in blood glucose. If the gut registers that a certain food will increase that blood glucose, it will drive up the craving for the food to store more energy as that survival mechanism. Think about the animals, right? What is the survival mechanism to motivate them to eat more? So here's all the good news, guys, right? We are eating over 60% of non-real food. How do we get off of it? Okay, Sarah, yeah, but eating that protein and the vegetables really doesn't sound good because my taste buds really are out of whack and I need to eat a ton of sugar to even taste anything. Believe me, I know how that works. When you have to come off of Splenda or stevia that are hyper sweet compared to sugar, it tastes like nothing. So what I did with that, just a little tip for those who are drinking a ton of Diet Coke or even iced tea with a ton of stevia in it, go cold turkey for just a couple days and you will see a resetting in your taste buds. But what I am going to tell you now are the supplements that help reset your health, reset your addictions, and get you back to that baseline where you can actually be addicted to these healthy foods, rewiring your brain and the signaling to your gut saying, okay, I love this food because I'm attaching this food with physical and mental energy. My brain fog's going away. I'm feeling better. My muscles look more defined. I'm getting rid of my belly fat and visceral fat and liver fat. So if your diet has consisted primarily of that big food, it's time to change. And we need to do this in our kids as well. So this goes for not just you, but for your kids and for your spouse and everyone in the household. When you cut out and get rid of those processed foods in the pantry, there's no choice. And me as a mom, I'm in control. I'm going to the market. I'm paying for it. My kids are a little older now where they can spend their own money on food, but I am controlling what I'm spending on their cell phone bills. I'm controlling on what I'm spending on Amazon. I'm still in a little bit of control. And when you've got younger kids, you're really into control. When they're not riding their bikes to 7-Eleven, you are still in control. And there are substitutes and ways to make natural foods. I'm going to be incorporating more sweet treats that you can make at home. Incorporate your kids in the kitchen. Talk to them about what the nutrients they're getting out of each food. Get them involved. They will take ownership, right? Okay, so that's just my mothering tip. I've seen it happen. All three of my kids have their own motivation for eating right now. Are they perfect? No. But are they 90% there? Yes. And they're taking care of their bodies. They know that their bodies are there to be fueled and perform for them. So just something to think about, as it's not just about you, it's about your kids. So if you've been eating these foods for a lengthy time, your body's depleted of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and more, not to mention that our soils are depleted. So it's actually imperative that you do supplement. The broccoli today has 1/50th of the nutrients that the broccoli had in 1950. So we need to be supplementing. And we need to get off on to the real whole foods and supplementing to increase the nutritional profile of our body. So the number one supplement, accelerated keto, and this actually is going to be accelerated fast soon because it's not just a keto supplement. You do not have to be on a high fat diet. The priority in overcoming big food addiction is to shut off the cravings, reset insulin resistance, reset leptin resistance, and take control of your willpower. Accelerated keto flips you into that state of ketosis. So you're burning your own fat stores for energy, which naturally says to the brain, oh my gosh, I don't need food. I have thousands of calories on my body to burn. I can actually fast. I'm going to wait to eat. And when I do eat, I'm actually going to reach for some protein. And this is going to turn off the desire for the external sugar energy sources. It also helps burn that liver fat. Remember, we are fighting fatty liver pandemic. And the accelerated keto burns the liver fat and the visceral fat, which is the metabolically unhealthy fat around the abdominal area, and that leads to most diseases, including insulin resistance. It helps improve dopamine, GABA, serotonin levels, so it's calming the brain down, lowers the stress level. How much stress are you under when you try to juice cleanse or you try to do a cleanse and get off all this food, right? You are so stressed out, you're hangry, and the diet lasts for about 2 days. Well, accelerated keto is going to help improve your dopamine levels, GABA, serotonin. It is also enhanced, like all of the accelerated health products, with scalar frequencies. And the accelerated keto particularly clears emotional and physical shock from the body, cleanses the liver, converts saturated fat to unsaturated fat, and increases your metabolic rate. Second supplement, accelerated scalar copper. Copper helps decrease insulin resistance, uric acid, and disease in multiple different ways. As I mentioned, copper blocks what's called the polyol pathway. This pathway is responsible for converting glucose into sorbitol and fructose. And because of this mechanism, the body maintains a healthy level of uric acid and prevents insulin resistance and weight gain. It also helps keep the triglycerides and liver fat in a healthy range. Fatty liver and triglycerides are what lead to insulin resistance and most metabolic disease. The body cannot metabolize fat without copper. This is why we are getting so much unexplained weight gain. Copper inhibits an enzyme which blocks fat burning. So if the body doesn't block this enzyme, then it can't burn fat. Low levels of copper can make the fat cells fatter by changing how they process their main metabolic fuels like fat and sugar, and it also helps improve fat burning mechanisms. So lastly, copper helps regulate iron in the blood, which is the root cause of oxidative stress. We always think, we need iron, right, for to fight the anemia. Well, most of us have plenty of iron in our bodies. The iron's in the wrong places. We need copper to unlock that key to get the iron to go to where it needs to go. So depletion of copper is what actually is causing most people's anemia. Accelerated scalar copper is the only liquid copper supplement with 100% absorption made with my proprietary scalar technology. It's enhanced with frequencies to clear that emotional and physical shock, just like the accelerated keto, improve the structural integrity because it's needed for your bones, for the collagen buildup, your skin, your eyes. I actually put my copper in a spray bottle and I spray it, and it's amazing for my skin, but I also feel that it reduces the inflammation in my eyes when my eyes go blurry from staring at my computer doing podcasts like this. It really helps, but it's also enhanced with frequencies to balance copper and zinc and to devitalize fungus. Thirdly is the acceleradine iodine. So not only is the acceleradine helping to increase the metabolism, fat oxidation, and thyroid function, it's been shown to help lower blood sugar and devitalize foreign pathogens that may increase the cravings for processed foods. So in your gut with those processed foods, you're full of fungus and parasites. I know it. And just by eating those foods, it stimulates the production of these fungi, right? So guess what those fungus and the parasites eat? Sugar. And they are creating those cravings to become even stronger. So the accelerated iodine, and then of course the accelerated silver, help devitalize these foreign pathogens that are increasing the cravings. It's also increasing ATP, that's your true cellular energy, by 18 times compared to when it's deficient. The body is fueled by fructose, and that fructose is stealing ATP away from you, depleting your energy. Acceleradine also helps push out the known toxins found in the processed foods out of all 100 trillion cells in the body, not just the thyroid, helps detox the body of radiation as well. helps detox the body of the dioxins that we were talking about. And now Fukushima, it was just announced last week, they are dumping that radioactive water into the oceans. And even China is saying, we don't want any of your seafood or your seaweed or your iodine because we now know it's radioactive. So this is why it's even more imperative to be taking your accelerated iodine or accelerating iodine. Additionally, you can use the accelerated silver. This is something your kids can use. They love owning their own bottle and they can hold on to it and say, Mom, I took my silver today. And that silver tastes like water. They feel really good about taking care of their body and replacing what they are not getting with that processed foods with something to focus on, and that being a supplement that helps fuel their body. The excessive fructose, seed oils, and fake ingredients are suppressing the immune system, creating this perfect storm for fungus and parasites, bacteria, and viruses to thrive. So the accelerated silver helps to devitalize all of these. And it is treated with an implosion device, so is the copper, to restructure the water in order to lower the surface tension of the water for the silver to penetrate deeper into the tissues. No other silver or colloidal silver solution does this, okay? There's a lot to choose from out there, but the accelerated silver is the only company and supplement that has been treated by this water implosion device. This also increases the piezoelectric strength, or the charge of the water, which amplifies the power of the silver ion by increasing its energy and its ability to neutralize pathogens. It turns unstructured water into structured water. It takes away any pre-existing negative energetic signatures in there. It's also like a homeopathic as well. So anyways, there's a lot more information about what we do to our accelerated copper, silver, and gold. And these are just a few things to know and why you want to choose those. Next is the accelerated ancient salt. And this is really great for your cravings because there are parallel pathways for sugar and salt to the brain. The accelerated ancient salt may help reduce the cravings for that hyperpalatable sugar, and it helps with controlling your appetite. Just put a little bit on your tongue, your appetite's suppressed. It also can help with nausea. It has over 62 minerals and holds a negative charge to help pull out those positively charged toxins, parasites, and undigested fats. It's enhanced with scalar field technology as well and helps so much with the electrolyte need, helps reduce blood sugar, reduce appetite, reduce nausea, helps improve fat and protein digestion, increase detoxification. Zen Biome, this is new to my store and I love it because it directly addresses the psychological stress and the feedback loop between the gut and the brain. This is unique. Karan talked about it. It's a probiotic, sporebiotic, and it targets the gut-brain axis. Then you can combine that with the leaky gut bundle, which is the mega mucosa, mega pre, and mega spore, reconditions that healthy gut microbiome after being destroyed by processed food and supports that microbial diversity. I'm running out of time, you guys. The berberine HCl. Berberine is nature's own Ozempic, right? So it helps lower your blood sugar and can help with digestion. What do you want to do in addition to that? Eat your wild animal protein. Put that on your plate first. You will see your leptin resistance, insulin resistance, and your appetite are going to reset. You're going to start telling your brain that you've got enough nutrients. You don't even need to finish the vegetables on your plate. It's going to trigger that hormone CCK. Eliminate the processed foods. That's a no-brainer. Intermittent fast. Use the accelerated keto to kick you into ketosis. Intermittent fast to ride the wave of ketosis. Snack on your fat stores. Break your fat with a high animal protein meal, and you will increase that glucagon to insulin ratio, increasing that fat burn. And then fill your plate up with vegetables, not the sulfur, oxalates, and lectins. I go into that in my group coaching. That's why you need to join, so you can limit or learn more about that. And eliminate the fake sweeteners. Identify your triggers. Get those foods out of your kitchen and your pantry. Go outside, get some sunlight, move around your mealtime. Before or after, move and take a walk, and you will see your blood sugar come down. So those are just my tips. Hope this was helpful. Ran out of time. Thanks for joining me today. If I can help you with your health issues, contact me through the website, sarabantahealth.com. Happy to put together a protocol for you. Join the free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. I dive deeper into all of this, and you can ask your questions there. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and across over 100 channels under Accelerated Health TV and Radio Show. What did you learn today? How much processed foods are you eating? Check the labels, you guys. Look on the back of your healthy, natural, ketogenic labels, and you will be shocked. My goal is to reach everyone on earth with eyes to see and ears to hear my message of healing. So help me with that goal. Share this podcast with a few of your friends who may need my help. Join us every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, and use coupon WELCOME10 for 10% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us here, and have a great week.